A Portrait of Henrietta Lacks, presented by Bakara Johnson at the Coleman Center for the Arts. Artist Talk, April 20th, 2023. Henrietta Lacks' story begins in 1951 when she was diagnosed with cervical cancer. She sought treatment at Johns Hopkins Hospital, where she underwent severe treatments to cure her cancer. This included having radiation injected into her cervix. Doctors took samples of her cells without her knowledge or consent and used her cells for medical research. Scientists discovered that her cells could survive outside of her body in a culture where they thrived and multiplied. Henrietta died in 1951, but her cells live on. They have a limitless lifespan, seemingly impossible to kill. In 1951, scientists at the Tuskegee Institute built a factory to reproduce HeLa cells in mass, which they shipped to labs around the world. HeLa cells were the first human cells successfully isolated from the human body and then cloned, multiplied as identical cells. Her cells brought us the polio vaccine, in vitro fertilization, gene mapping, methods of testing medications, and developed a method for testing if certain cells are cancerous. It allowed for advances in cancer treatment, AIDS research, stem cell studies, and more recently, helped to develop the COVID vaccine, and so much more. Beginning in 1964, HeLa cells were taken into space to study or test how space travel could affect the human body in zero gravity. They discovered that her cells divided more quickly and were more powerful with each trip. Henrietta passed away in 1951, but her cells still live on. The exhibit, A Portrait of Henrietta Lacks, was created during an artist in residency program at the Coleman Center for the Arts in York, Alabama. It was to honor and explore the compelling story of Henrietta Lacks and HeLa cells, the first immortal human cell line. During this project, I learned why researchers could take samples of Mrs. Lacks' cervical cells without her knowledge or consent, and how they were later developed into one of the most critical and commercially profitable cell lines in the medical industry. Partnering with the Coleman Center for the Arts to create this installation provided an opportunity for talks about informed consent, ethics, biopolitics, and the overarching mistreatment of Black people in the medical industry. Expression of Love is a digital piece I created in honor of giving Henrietta Lacks her flowers. Part of Henrietta's life story is filled with so much sorrow and darkness. I wanted to make her light by incorporating a variety of spring flowers and rendering the sunshine and sky in pastel colors, the intensity of oil paints. In the piece, Flowery Disconnection, I incorporated a variety of flowers, some photographed by myself along the trails of Bladensburg Water Park in Maryland. They have been arranged to depict Henrietta Lacks' cells and their disconnection from her body. Golden Flowers for a Golden Lady is a pop art piece surrounding Henrietta Lacks and goldenness. The art piece HeLa cells are my interpretation of Henrietta Lacks' HeLa cells. It's a collection of 6 pieces that were created by using a fluid art technique that employs an acrylic paint and Floetrol mixture poured on canvas, and silicone oil was added to the top color, in this case turquoise, causing the paint to separate into cell-like images. In this next piece, The Revolution Will Be HeLaized, I considered Henrietta Lacks, an unofficial member of the Black Panther Party, for her revolutionary contributions to the medical industry. For this art piece, I used an old photograph of Henrietta, enhanced it to make her look more youthful, printed it in black and white using a laser printer. I then transferred her image and the other images of the founding members of the Black Panther Party onto a 9 by 12 inch canvas by applying 3 coats of Mod Podge on the photocopy and allowing it to dry overnight. After the image was dried, I then transferred it using liquid medium. After it was dry, I rubbed off the paper from the back to give a clear image of Henrietta. I painted the American flag in silver and red and added political topics using newspaper print overlapping the images. Using human hair for texture and to give Henrietta a 3D element, I added an afro and a pick in her hair. For Henrietta in 1,000 Words, this artwork contains 5 pieces: the body, head, hair, corset, and skirt. The process of making the body began with making her chest and torso, using a combination of Elmer's glue, water, and flour to create a paste, then dipping strips of newspaper in the paste and wrapping the strips around a female mannequin form that was covered with saran wrap, a papier-mâché type of technique. PVC pipes were used to connect the head and the body and as a stand to support the whole structure. For the head, I used the same papier-mâché technique that was used to shape her body. For the hair, newspaper was crumbled in the shape of individual flowers, glued to styrofoam and paper plates to create an afro-shaped hair. For her corset, the process of making the corset began with the same papier-mâché technique to create its foundation. The outer layer of the corset was made with paper rose petals and stems. Newspaper was cut in quarters and rolled using a skewer. They were aligned to the shape of the corset form, cut and glued around the entire corset. About 100 stems lined the body of the corset front to back. The process of making the roses began with using newspaper to cut out petals, gluing them together from the larger to the smaller size, and curling the tops of the petals. Lawn landscape fabric was used as ribbon on the back of the corset to tie it to the body. For the skirt, an A-line round shape was cut out of brown paper. Large petals were cut from newspaper and symmetrically lined the skirt. The petals were curled at the ends. Newspaper roses were added to line the bottom of the skirt. Lawn landscape fabric was also used to secure the skirt to the form underneath the corset. The exhibit, A Portrait of Henrietta Lacks, contains 11 art pieces, including Henrietta in 1,000 Words, The Revolution Will Be Healized, Healer Cells, Golden Flowers for a Golden Lady, and Flowery Disconnection. They were installed at the Coleman Center for the Arts, Pop Start A, in York, Alabama, on April 21st, 2023, and will be on display until May 29, 2023. If you happen to be in York, Alabama, please stop by Pop Start A.